Have you ever felt that you are a little different from others? Like your mind is running on a completely different frequency, which people are not able to fully understand. If this is not just a feeling, but a rare psychological pattern, found in only about 1% of people. If you stay with me till the end, today you might learn something about yourself that can completely change the way you see your entire life. Stay till the end, because in the end, I am going to reveal a secret that only people with this rare personality can truly understand. Most people go through life following predictable patterns. They want stability, approval, and simplicity. They choose what is safe, what is familiar, and what is socially accepted. They avoid too many questions because questions create uncertainty. But there is another type of person, a rare group who doesn't fully fit into that system. They question everything. They feel deeply. They think too much. They sense patterns others ignore. And they often feel like they are too much for the world, or the world is too little for them. Psychologists and behavioral theorists, including ideas inspired by Carl Jung's work on personality archetypes and individuation, have long observed that human minds don't all operate the same way. Some minds are built for conformity, and others are built for complexity, depth, and exploration of meaning. And today, you're going to discover whether you belong to that rare psychological pattern. But stay with this, because near the end, there is a hidden psychological truth about why these traits feel like both a gift and a burden. And most people never realize it in time. Because understanding this doesn't just describe who you are. It explains why you've always felt different in the first place. You are about to see 5 psychological signs that appear in people who belong to this rare 1% personality pattern. Sign 1. You feel deeply misunderstood, even when you are fully expressing yourself. Psychologically, this comes from cognitive depth and emotional complexity. Your thoughts don't stay on the surface. You don't just see events. You interpret meaning behind them. When you speak, you are often translating layers of emotion and abstract thinking that others don't naturally process. For example, you might explain how a simple situation made you reflect on life, human behavior, or your future, while others only see the surface-level event. Most people misunderstand this as overthinking or being too sensitive, but in reality, it is a sign of heightened introspective intelligence and emotional awareness. The hidden strength here is perception. You notice what others miss, you feel what others suppress, and that makes your inner world far richer than most people can comprehend. Now pay close attention, because what comes next is something most people completely overlook about this personality pattern. The real difference is not just how deeply you think, but how differently you process reality itself. Your mind is not trying to fit in. It is trying to understand everything. This is where the deeper psychology begins to unfold. People with this trait often experience internal conflict because the world rewards simplicity, but their mind naturally produces depth. This creates a quiet tension between who they are and how they are expected to be, and that tension becomes the foundation of the next signs. Sign 2. You are constantly drawn to multiple interests and ideas, but feel overwhelmed choosing just one. From a psychological perspective, this is linked to high openness to experience, a trait studied in personality psychology. Your brain is wired to explore, not settle. You don't lose interest easily. You gain interest too quickly. For example, one week, you might dive into psychology, the next into business ideas, then philosophy, then creative arts. It's not inconsistency. It's intellectual curiosity, expanding in multiple directions. The challenge is that society often pushes specialization. People are expected to pick one identity, one career, one path. But your mind resists that limitation. The strength here is adaptability. You can connect ideas across fields that others see as unrelated. This is where innovation often begins. Sign 3. You often feel emotionally intense, even in situations others find normal. This is not emotional instability. It is emotional sensitivity, combined with deep internal processing. Your nervous system reacts strongly to meaning, tone, energy, and hidden intentions. For example, a simple conversation might stay in your mind for hours because you're analyzing what was really meant behind the words. Psychologically, this is associated with high empathy and heightened emotional cognition. You don't just feel emotions. You process them in layers. The strength is emotional intelligence. You understand people beyond what they say. You sense what they hide. But the challenge is emotional overload when the world feels too loud internally. Before we move to the next signs, pause for a moment and reflect on this. Because if you are recognizing yourself in these patterns, you are not alone. And what you're about to hear next might explain why you've struggled to feel fully understood your entire life. Studies in personality psychology suggest that individuals with high openness, sensitivity, and introspective thinking often form what researchers call non-normative cognitive patterns. In simple terms, their minds don't follow the typical social processing route. This means they don't just experience life, they interpret it deeply, constantly building internal meaning systems that others may never see. Sign 4. You prefer solitude, not because you dislike people, but because your mind needs space to breathe. Psychologically, this is not isolation. It is cognitive restoration. Your brain processes information intensely, and solitude becomes a way to organize thoughts, emotions, and internal experiences. For example, after social interaction, you might feel mentally drained, not because of people themselves, but because of the depth at which you processed every detail. The strength here is clarity. In solitude, your thinking becomes sharper, your creativity expands, and your identity becomes clearer. Sign 5. You constantly question life, purpose, and your own identity more than others around you. This is the emotional peak of this personality pattern. It reflects what Carl Jung described as the process of individuation, the deep psychological journey of becoming fully aware of oneself beyond social conditioning. You are not satisfied with surface-level answers. You want meaning. You want truth. You want to understand why you exist the way you do. The strength here is self-awareness at a rare depth, but it can also feel like isolation if you believe others think the same way. Now let's bring everything together. These 5 signs form a single psychological pattern: deep cognitive processing, high openness, emotional intensity, introspection, and existential curiosity. Together, they create a mind that does not simply live life, but constantly analyzes, questions, and reinterprets it. And psychologically, this is exactly why such individuals often stand out. Because they are not built for repetition. They are built for understanding complexity. Here is the deeper psychological truth we promised earlier. People like this often feel both gifted and burdened at the same time because their awareness expands faster than their sense of belonging. They see more, feel more, and think more, but rarely find reflection of that depth in the external world. And that creates the illusion of being different, when in reality, they are simply more aware. If you have stayed this long, this is important for you to hear. There is nothing wrong with how your mind works. The emotional struggles, the overthinking, the depth, the sensitivity. These are not flaws. They are signals of a mind built for perception beyond the ordinary. Your struggles are not signs of weakness. They are signs of complexity. And complexity is not something to fix. It is something to understand. Because the world often needs people who don't just accept reality as it is, but question it, feel it, and reshape it through insight. Your perspective matters more than you realize. You notice patterns others ignore. You feel emotions others suppress. You think thoughts others avoid. And that creates a unique kind of impact in the world, even if it is not always immediately visible. So instead of trying to silence your depth, learn to guide it. Stop apologizing for thinking deeply, feeling intensely, or questioning everything. These are not mistakes in your personality. They are the foundation of your identity, and maybe now you are beginning to see that you were never meant to think like everyone else. You were meant to understand differently. So ask yourself this: if your mind is capable of seeing what others miss, what will you choose to do with that ability? Did you recognize yourself in these signs? Which sign felt the most accurate for you? And if this message made sense to you, share it with someone who always feels like they think too much or feel too deeply, because they might need this reminder more than they realize. There is a quiet community of people who think, feel, and perceive life on a deeper level, and you are not alone in it. If you believe in growth, authenticity, and understanding the human mind beyond surface-level thinking, then you already belong here. And maybe this is your reminder that your mind is not too complex for the world. It is simply rare. If this resonated with you, subscribe, because we explore the psychology of who you truly are, not who the world tells you to be.